Alright guys, welcome back. So, I decided to push it further than 30 miles out and 30 miles back. 60 miles just wasn't enough. And frankly, if I'm going to give you good information and my honest opinions, I needed to go further. Plus, I knew where there was a cat scale, so I wanted to go down and get a weight for that. So, long story short of it, we are, let's see here, the average transmission temp, let's look at that. That transmission temp has stayed right around 170. It actually went down, even though we kept going up and down hills. It stayed around 160, but at the beginning of the video it was up kind of around 180. So we are more than with range. That the temp gauge has never went up at all. Outside temp is 73, so I mean, I'm not worried about that. Everything looked good there. I tried something new going into the small town where the cat scale was. It went from a 65 to 45, then 35, then 25. I didn't touch the brakes once. What I did is I used the cruise control down step, and when we get out here on some of the hills, on the way back here, I'm actually gonna downstep this to 35 going down, and I'm not gonna touch the brakes. So how did it do towing? Stability was good, was really good. Fuel economy is kind of where I anticipated, but I'll show you that in a minute. Again, just adapting your speed will change your fuel economy. So if you take it from 65 to 60, that'll improve fuel economy. If you drop it to 55, it'll improve fuel economy. But literally, I haven't touched the brakes once on this trip, except for when I came to a stop sign. And so I'm very, very pleased with how the transmission performed. There was a couple times where it got up to like 5,000 RPMs, which again, most people say, I wouldn't want my engine running like that. Again, when you're going up the Ike Guantlet, if you set it at 35, this truck ain't gonna be running 5,000 RPMs. And if you leave it, give it all its gears to keep it right in its sweet spot, it's gonna do pretty good. Engine noise was null and void in the Chevy. I mean, it's quiet as a church mouse in here, and somebody's like, well, I don't want to hear my engine. Probably not gonna hear it a ton in the Chevy. That has kind of been what I've experienced the entire time of being in the truck. Let's look at fuel economy. All right, so fuel economy, over 87.3 miles, and we're not done yet. Average 7.8. Now, in the first gen L5P that I had, I got about 9.5 towing this exact camper, exact setup. So I think that at 9.5 versus almost 8, I will do a breakdown. Like I said, I'm going to do a final comparison video, putting it all. That's going to come out next Saturday, if I can get it all put together by Saturday. But all of these towing parts are going to give you guys the impression and everything like that, and then the final side-by-side, which one did better here, there, everywhere. That's going to come out next Saturday, so make sure you do hit the subscribe and the notification button for that. It would also help out if you give me a thumbs up. But nonetheless, we are on our way back now to get the hitch switched over to the 7.3 General, and take the Super Duty on the exact same rip. I'm going to do the exact same cruise control, engine braking, brake brake. I want to see how each one does. I won't need to take that one to the cat scale per se, because I know what the trailer weighs now, and I will talk about that in my comparison video that's going to come out next Saturday. But we're going to be within spec on the Ford, and again, the Chevy had plenty of room in its trailer weight capacity to tow this, so that was not a big deal. And one thing I do want to touch on, guys, is these fifth wheels. They're so tall. They're like a big windsock. So when you get the weight up there, no matter what, just hitting a wind, a headwind, going up down hills, these are kind of, in theory, like with the resistance, that almost like they weigh more than what they truly do weigh. Especially like this one, it's like almost 13.4 tall. So I mean, it's a beast. And I would say right now in the Chevy that stability felt fine the entire time, and I never once felt like there wasn't good control. Steering feedback was really good. Transmission temps now down to 162. ride was good, engine noise low. So, and again, we're gonna have like a 5-part series, same trailer with the Godzilla coming up. So I think we're getting close to one of the hills. There's somebody behind me. I wish they weren't, because I wanted to do, we're gonna do the 35. Let's check this out. All right, so I'm actually gonna do kind of mimic. We can see this big, long, windy hill. Again, it doesn't do it justice, but I'm gonna drop it back down to use the cruise control like I did going into town. I'm gonna drop it down to like 36. I wanna see the feedback that the transmission's giving me here. Like mimicking coming out of the Eisenhower Tunnel. I just wanna see what it'll do. And again, if you were coming out of Eisenhower Tunnel, you would already only be doing like 35. The tunnel speed limit is 35. So Ike Guantlet speed limit, 35. So this is set at 55. I kind of brought it back to 35, but I'm not gonna touch the brakes once. Now, the next hill we come up and over, I'm gonna actually tap the cruise off and see how much we coast coming down that hill. Because again, I think they're, see now it's scrubbing speed really quick. The guy behind me is probably ticked off. But all right, so we're gonna go ahead and just cancel that now. We're gonna let it roll out and we're gonna let it get back up to speed. All right. So coming down the next hill, we're gonna just let it coast itself. And again, this is kind of mimics what they're doing when they come out of the Ike Guantlet. You know, they have a steep grade and then they're just letting the truck kind of roll. Any vehicle's going to coast no matter what. So we're gonna let it coast. That one, 0 brake applications. When I came down it at 65 and at 55, 0 issues. It held it at its speed, no sweat. And I would also say that this journey here has probably had 90% of it up and down these hills. So we have a downgrade and then it's straight up, you know, a long, windy, steep road. So I mean, in comparison to the 4-mile jaunt, you might go up the Gauntlet at 35 mile an hour. This one, keeping the speed where it needs to. I mean, I think this gives the truck a better opportunity to, you know, heat the transmission up, get a second, let it cool off, heat it back up, and it's really not engaging too much heat there. 169 degrees isn't bad at all. And like I said, keeping itself at speed. Yeah, the engine's working, but it's made to. It produces its power later on in the RPM range. But at no point did it hit a red line, or the rev limiter, I guess, if you will. So yeah, absolutely. If you guys started the series back at part 1, it just goes through the hookups where we talk about the truck, the setup, the gearing, everything like that, and we go through different progressions of how the truck handled the trip. Saturday, next week, we will put out the comparison between the two Goliaths, I guess, if you will, of the gas world right now, for the pickups. And yeah. All right, so here we go, guys. We are getting ready to go down the hill. And this is a little bit of a windy little road here before we head down. And I'm gonna just kick off the cruise now. All right, and see how we pick up speed. Oh yeah, yep, we're picking up speed. Let's see here. Let's see how fast it'll push us down the hill. We were at 55 initially. I will stop it if it gets to 70, but I mean, now imagine going down, you know, 3 miles to that Gauntlet. Of course there's going to be brake applications in a gas motor. You're not giving it any type of advance versus the diesel having the exhaust brake. Technically, if you're using the exhaust brake, you're using a brake. So, you know, it's not fair to compare those two things right there without using some of the advantage that the truck has. Both of them have regular brakes, which you could use. So it got us up to about 68 miles per hour. So at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, if you're going to use that exhaust brake, then it's not a fair comparison to say, well, the gas motor has way more applications and it's nice. Well, if you're using the normal advantage, this one uses cruise control, that one uses cruise control and the exhaust brake, and yeah, it's inevitably, it probably will do slightly better, But they're saying, well, you know, the gas touched the brakes 9 times, okay, versus the diesel 1 or 2 times. Not exactly fair, but because I'm telling you, this truck at setting the cruise control at 35, it'll hold it. My V10 at work and the 6-speed does it. So yeah, with very few brake applications. So I think there's a really big disparity there if you're not giving it that. So, but overall, again, the transmission's been working up and down these hills. I'm gonna have to count the hills on the next one. There had to be 100 up and downs this whole trip. There was no flat. It was work for this motor, and it stayed in check. So I'll be interested to see how the Ford does. But now we're pretty much coming out and going to get into some flat work here. So, but you know, at the end of the day, trans temp never got over 185, but for the most part stayed well with under that. And I think for the most part we're at 100 miles, 7.8 miles the gallon. So I'll break that down. The CAT scale said this trailer weighed 14.2. It fell between the seats. So that's without water, but that's all in truck. We have our curb weight. The Chevy is heavier than the Ford. But yeah, I feel plenty confident in this truck and its abilities. I'm excited to see how the Godzilla stacks up with the bigger trailer, the longer trip with it, and everything like that. And then of course the final breakdown and comparison video coming next Saturday. So appreciate you guys being here. Again, hit the notification bell so you know when I'm posting new content. But yeah, go back and watch the first pieces of this series. It's just easiest to break it down so you can go back to each video, and I will describe what's kind of in each video. But guys, we will see you next Saturday, unless you want to go down and hit the link in this video, which will take you to the first part